Now there's audio. There we go. I had my mic muted for my Streamlabs, so you guys were hearing me, but anyone on Twitch wasn't. Which happens. Yeah, a lot of people much more quickly this time around, which is pretty nice. This is our 18th developer campfire chat. We do these once every month, usually the first Saturday of every month. Usually chill here and let people send in questions through the Google Sheet, but you guys can also ask questions in chat. It just takes us a little bit longer to get to them, or we don't always get to all of them. But yeah, if you have a question, send it in the sheet and chat, and I'm gonna give it a few more minutes, let people throw anything in there that they haven't yet, and got some other devs here with me. That's good. We got Warp, Doom, and we do have a big update to talk about too. We have the everyone's already saying the AVG update. I'm gonna keep saying that wrong. AVG, AVG. It's the same G as in GIF or GIF. It's a better joke when it's typed out. But the Ave guy, Araki says, don't forget new map mode. Yeah, it's a big update. I'm just saying the AVG is like kind of like it's kind of on the tin on the cover of the card box, if you will. But there's a lot more behind it than just the AVG. So Ferocious Fiend is first in my chat. Is your name spelled like that on Discord too? Okay, it is. I was looking for the Fiend with the IE, and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. Okay, good. Twitch chat is also working. How is everybody's New Year so far? At the other devs and anyone in chat. I'll turn down the music down a little bit. It's my bad. Going well. Just had a baby. Oh, congrats. You need sleep? Oh, yep, that's the start of it. Game looks great, thank you. I should probably turn off streamer mode so I can at least see your names and then respond to you. How are yours? Mine's good. Not much different, you know, same old. New year, new possibilities. People having kids already, that's a lot more important, I would say. If there's anything else crazy happening, if you guys want everything to say. AVG merged when? Oh, I don't know. Maybe maybe a week ago. I might merge them a week ago, maybe a week later than that, who knows? Dinner time for Warp? Alright, Warp's out. Everyone's leaving me all by myself. Usually we have Type here as well, and Type talks a little bit as well, but Doom, is your mic working today?
I don't know, you tell me.
Yep, it's working, cool. Usually we take turns answering the questions if usually, but it's up to you, or anyone else here. Warp's gone now, so but Warp doesn't talk a whole lot. But yeah, new update. Let's talk about the new update. AVG, new Race to the South. Lots of new things come with them too. Get a lot of feedback with it as well. Another big part of the update is the Starry Map, which I know a lot of people have been looking forward to. I say Starry Map, but like, I guess the more official way to call it is a new map mode that displays stars. Starry Map is just what the PR was called, but I guess that's the words for it now. And hopefully in the future, something we'd like to do with that is provide a little bit more information on that panel than just pretty stars. So I think the main thing we'd like to add is the types of stars and how fuel effective they are, because that mode's mainly supposed to be It's not supposed to be an alternate version of the system map. It's supposed to be like a separate panel. So while the system map shows planets, trade, fleets, safety, stuff like that, the idea behind the story map is that it's a separate panel that shows other information, and that would mainly be like stars and stuff. So we're waiting for Azure to refactor the planet panel. It says Azure. Are we? Do not bribe the people for content, please. Thank you. I'm gonna hop over to. Oh, the typo is intentional in your name? Okay. I don't know why. It's one of those things where like you read it, your brain reads it, and you don't see the typo unless you actually look at it. Caucus says, what else do we do here? That's a very broad question. Where is here and who are the people? I'm sorry, how do you say that then? I don't want to mispronounce it. Good question? Alright. I'm gonna just call you Ko then. So what is the Abbey? They thought they were a great new addition, but not to get removed. What? That's don't worry about that. People, that game been PR'd for like 2 years and been under work for longer, and people like to joke that they're gonna get closed because they were PR'd for so long, and that's kind of the norm with adding a whole new species to the game. So if anyone says anything's getting removed, it's probably a joke. Some people in our community are a lot more jokesters than others, so. Some people are Pug and some people are Korg. If Warp says it's a joke. When. Sometime. I'm gonna go over and open the question sheet. There's a few questions, and some of them are already joke questions. Keep talking about the new update. So if you haven't sent your feedback in, and after you've played it, because it's been out for a week or so now, head over to the announcements in our Discord, and there should be a linked box for feedback, so that will help us a ton with kind of gauging what's all going on there. I know one of the main things for feedback people are looking for is a shrouded mechanic, because there's a lot of talk on that, on whether or not it's good or not. Generally we think it's a good addition to the game because it helps break up like normal play. But yeah, go ahead and send your feedback on that. For instance, Hold Fire was removed to Ziproot. Yes, it had to been removed because there were some bugs with it, but we do want to get that back in the game. Engine bloom when? Define engine bloom, because some things in the game do have bloom, but we do want to avoid a general use of bloom, because it doesn't look bad, but I think it conflicts a lot with our flat sprites. And I think it's one of those things that's better used in moderation than it is used as like a blanket across everything in the game. And for flooding up, oh, okay, so you're saying engine scaling, sorry. I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you were part of that conversation in the Discord, but there was a PR open by Cornier, who's one of our coders, and it added that functionality to where it made the sprites kind of grow outward as you tapped the key and then like grow back in as you stopped. The only reason that got closed is because Cornier ended up having real life, I believe, and or there just wasn't activity on the PR for like a couple months. But I have seen Cornier pop their head in every now and then, and if they're interested in picking that back up, or if anybody else wants to, they're more than welcome to do so. Most energy-based things kind of like Bloomy. They do. Yeah. I was more talking visual bloom as from Blender or something, and I guess Doom's right in saying energy-based things kind of like Bloomy, because we do have that kind of faded, glowing effect on things, so yeah. Just curious, where does Abgi content currently end? That is a question for Azure. Someone responds to my everyone with a GIF. Yeah, it's entirely fair game. Like if I at everyone, you guys are like free to ping me back, and I just have to deal with it because everyone got pinged, so now I get pinged. Haratio says I'm not missing it this time. Sweet. But yeah, I don't know if I said that right. That is something that was being considered to add to the game. It's something I think we generally want. It just so happens that the activity kind of died down on that PR, so kind of depends on where that gets taken from there. I don't know? Okay. Answer the chat. Now that we can get nukes from Abgi, is checkmate ending totally useless? I'm not sure you can get them from the Abgi quite yet. And the thing with the checkmate ending is 90% of the time, or I guess 80%, people aren't going to have a jump drive before the end of the Free Worlds campaign, so using nukes at the end of the campaign is quite a big like feat in human space. And then by the time you start exploring, going to find the Abgi, at that point the main campaign's over, so it's kind of anyone's game at that point. Yeah, and the other thing with human nukes is they're single shot, which is probably a good thing considering things could get pretty hectic in human space. If you've flown into Abgi content, it does get pretty hectic there too, so. Nana says one more ping and I'm gone. They get pinged again and their name is now gone in Discord. Yeah. We could get started on the submitted questions first, and then I can hop back to reading the chat here. I don't imagine this is going to be a super long stream. It could be though. There is a lot of new content. In fact, I'll keep going on that. How about that? We talked about the Abgi, talked about the Starry Map. I think another big change was the Navy carrier adjustment that me and Doom went and did, and getting feedback on that is pretty cool too. So essentially, if you don't know, the carrier, the way it was for the longest time, for like all these years, was essentially a cruiser. It was just basically a little bit bigger cruiser with fighter bays. It had this same amount of guns as the cruiser, things like that. So it ended up being kind of like a big warship, just cruiser but better. And we kind of decided to take a look at that and move the carrier a bit over into a more carrier-like role. So some pretty big changes were done to it. It lost 4 of its gun ports. It lost 1 of its turret mounts. And in place of those, it got 4 extra fighter bays, which, not just drones, still fighters. So fighters generally, I think, in human space carry a bit more, because in human space the combat drones have just the 1 gun, but then you have like lances, they could carry more missiles, and that's exactly what the carrier has now, is more interior modules designed to support the more fighters. So more sidewinder ammunition, as well as it has an extra shield generator on to help repair them. But yeah, so seems to be some pretty good feedback on that. People are seeming to like it, that it's no longer just a cruiser with more health. And it being that way also helps fighting it, because the fighters are more of the damage now, because it doesn't have, you know, a bunch of particle cannons and along with its missile launchers. So taking out the fighters is a lot easier to handle, and once the carrier's by itself, it's a lot less of a threat than it used to be. Azure says there's also turret changes. Yes. Doom adjusted turrets across the board to be a little bit more consistent with one another. He's typing in chat. Let's see what he says about that. Oh, the area also got buffed alongside the carrier. It got 2 more fighter bays because it deserved it. Yes, I'm sorry. It was Hector who did a lot of the work for the turret changes. There were actually more changes beyond what was merged into vanilla for this update, but we decided to pull back on those to kind of test the waters with the ones that exist. But yeah. It was Hector who did most of the PR, if not all of it. So those are mainly the big changes. Content-wise, there were also a couple of UI changes and some other various things, mainly sound effect changes. There is now an audio panel in the game's interface that lets you adjust the sound of more than just the game. So you can adjust explosions, hyperdrive sounds, things like that now, so. There's Zanano sends an image in chat showing how beams should work. Shows a picture of some beams less up close. Oh yeah, going across the path of it. I think with this image, it's just a matter of AI. It's just kind of how the game's programmed. I'm not sure. I'm not a coder much myself, so I'm not sure what all that would entail with how beam turrets are used currently. So, we need improved jump drives that can jump further? Question mark. Says Dreammaker. For vanilla, we like to keep jump drives like just the way they are, because a lot of the map is based around the jump drive only being the only existing one and having that specific jump range. If we start adding jump drives to the game or hyperdrives to the game that do more than what the current ones do, it starts to break the gameplay of things because a majority of the map is specifically based around the current jump drive. That's quite there's quite a lot of plugins though that do add different kind of jump drives, and they're pretty entertaining to play. So, point drive when blue human space. Probably not. I don't know. January asks, is the Umber Leech no longer shrouded, or is the continuous version just have different? It is no longer shrouded. No. Shrouded was mainly going to be a mechanic introduced in the Abgi PR. The reason I added it to the Umber Reach prior was because I thought it felt a little bit more eerie for the region, and it kind of made sense because there's like a lot of deep lore in the Umber Reach as to why it's quiet as it is. But ultimately, kind of reading the feedback from people, there's not really anything in the Umber Reach to do, so having it be all mysterious and hidden from the map didn't really make sense. It does make sense in the Abgi's case because the whole like area down there is based around the mechanic and having to navigate through it to access the content in it, and the Umber Reach doesn't really have anything in it, so I kind of took it away from the area. I think it's better if it's there, but it's dead silent. You don't know what happened. There's nothing happening right now, and yeah, it's spooky. Yeah, Doom answers the turret question. It's easier to outmaneuver something that's turning when you're close up, the consequence of simple geometry, and it's when you can take advantage of deliberately in some circumstances. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, it comes up a lot in Endless Skies realism versus the arcade-style gameplay, and we kind of lean towards the latter. How can it be the only jump drive if I have 73 stored remnant space? You know what I meant. Not the only jump drive, but the only type of jump drive. But yeah. If you want realism, go outside. It's very realistic out there. Says Doom. But yeah. Alright, I think at this point I'd like to get to the questions in the sheet. There's not that many, so we can always head back to chat afterwards. And that's kind of how these campfire chats have turned out to be a little bit more now that we've done these more often. This is our 18th one. It kind of less so is questions submitted in the sheet and more so actively answering questions, but let's go to the sheet. First question is, are the Inkipias, or Inkipias, if I'm saying that right, going to get more content? That I don't know, because Rising Leaf, who was working with us, he's a creator of the faction. Currently he's not involved in the community. That's kind of the gist of it. He may come back, he may not. For it's more like insipid, insipias. See, that's what I thought it was too, and then Leaf corrected me to say it's with like a C sound. It's like a K. So, but yeah. Regarding the Inkipias, Leaf's not around at the moment. We're not gonna like be like, oh, you have to come back and do work for these guys, and at the same time, we're not gonna be like, oh, nobody can touch these guys in the meantime. But as for their content, it's just kind of we're not sure right now, but it's not gonna be for everything. Like, we're never gonna not add to them. That's for sure. Say GIF again. Say GIF again. But yeah, that's kind of where they're at right now. I will add on to this. There was when we updated the game on Steam, I saw someone talk about how we're adding a bunch of alien factions to the game, and we're not, and that's the only thing we're doing, and we're not working on other parts of the game. Very long conversation short. That's not the case. We're working on pretty much everywhere in the game. But yes, it is more recently there has been alien faction focus, and I very much, at least personally, would like to move back to what currently exists in the game for the immediate future. Yes, Doom says if anyone wants to try writing content for the Inkipias, they can. And that's kind of the nature of our project, is it's open source. You can go to the game, you can PR something, and we can take a look at it, see what it's like in vanilla, see if it kind of fits. There's nothing saying you just can't do it because someone else does it. So, yeah. But with the whole alien content thing, yeah, we generally would like to look more at existing content in the coming future. Alien content can still happen, but I definitely think it's going to kind of take like a back seat compared to going back to like the main campaign or things like that. So I kind of want to do that for a little while, but with like kind of like the Abgi and the successors, there was just so much work already done for them, and they kind of been around for like years. So, and there are some really good stories in there. I really enjoyed Abgi content. That had the most that any species had coming in. I'm sitting here like, oh man, the game to look crappy now because I wrote like a mission for them or something. But yeah, I'm working on those two on the side, so don't worry about that. Yep. Ferocious says people work on what they work on. You can encourage and discourage certain stuff, but if you really want to see certain content, you can work on it. There is no explicit you can't work on this. Which wait a minute. Okay, someone in the Discord channel, I'm gonna say this wrong. The person with SA4EVM in their name, Drucklator 3000, you have the same exact profile picture as one of the devs, and I thought they joined with this really wonky name. Yeah, that's Tibet Taroka's picture. No, you know, it's a yeah. Alright, let's move on to the next question here. In mid-January, oh, this is a long one. I gotta actually stretch out my browser for this one. Or can I click on it like this? Okay, here we go. This doesn't look like a question. This kind of looks like a statement, but I'll read it anyways. Mid-January, there was a discussion in a channel regarding a PR that included a situation where the player could be killed in a conversation without having a chance to draw their gun on an NPC who was across the room wielding a knife. Regardless of the specific merits of the discussion, I suggested, whoever submitted this question, and others agreed, that it would be worthwhile to put two pieces of information somewhere that prospective content creators would likely be able to see them. First, that broadly, we don't want die nodes and conversations to be we want it to be very, very rare and well telegraphed. And second, based on extant content, first class is quite competent with a gun. So yeah, that's all that says. It's not really a question. Is the question for feedback on that? I'm going to assume so. And that said, yes, we want to avoid having die options in conversations be just in general. We kind of want that to be extremely rare. Yes, Doom's content creators, please avoid killing the player. In certain scenarios where it's like the player's done a huge bad and they're in a situation they can't get out of, it makes sense. So, for example, in I think in Remnant Contact, if you talk to them about being a human and you don't let them do some tests on you, they're just going to kill you as an alpha, and it kind of makes sense there. It comes up more with species introductions more so than casual conversations. So having them in kind of mission chains, it makes sense to keep them a bit more rare. And if they do happen, it shouldn't just be out of the blue. It should be from a situation that the player acknowledges is happening rather than it just happens. You could be sitting there and then you say something wrong and you're dead. We kind of avoid that sort of thing. We want to avoid more. The player actively chooses to not avoid more, but the more case, the more proper example would be the player pulls out their gun and aims it at someone, or they threaten someone, or they're acting suspicious in a way with an alien or a person to the point where it would warrant lethal force. So less so more of just a display and I can just kill you, and then they do, and more so, yeah. I haven't read that specific mission. I just know that there is a die option in it, so yeah. In general, that's kind of the idea with it. Someone said, I think I gotta scroll back up here. Yeah, minimize the frequency with which you kill the player, yes. And then the whole competence with a gun with first last, I did read some comments suggesting that it's not a consistent factor, because early on in the story when you meet Katya and stuff like that, you're not very hand-to-hand or mid-combat competent. But then later on, in towards the end of the free worlds, you kind of pull out your gun and you just kind of do whatever. So in general, I think it's more safe to assume that early on they're kind of still learning, and later on, after dealing with galactic level threats, that they might be a bit more competent with it. So yeah. I'm gonna say this wrong, I'm sorry. Siridae? It's either Siridae or Kiridae. Not really an important question, but I'm wondering why civilian transport jobs are labeled the way they are. For example, I was offered jobs like transport farmers or transport mill workers and so on. The ones I'm looking at now are all at least 2 people, but I also have jobs offered passenger transport too, and these can have at least 4 people. Or bring tourists to. So my question is, why are these separated out this way? Bring always for tourists? Since I was looking for passenger jobs, it was going to potentially miss since they were spread out throughout the job board. I think a majority with that is plurals, yes, as Draft points out. Why are these separated? What specifically do you mean by looking for passenger jobs and missing? Because transport farmers and then passenger transport, they're kind of the same thing. Are you suggesting that they should all just say transport blank? I think it's partly just flavor and just kind of how the missions are added to the game. There's not really an explicit, this is how it should be labeled sort of thing. People are still talking about the competence first class has with guns, and they shouldn't be inexperienced. I think it could be said that while I wait for a response from Siridae, I think it could be said that the player might have a firearm and like have firearm knowledge or something like that. They just haven't practiced, like they haven't had to shoot anybody or something, being working in like a farm or something. I don't know. So I think at some point like we gotta consider that they might like they have a firearm, so they probably have like paperwork for stuff. They probably practiced or whatever. And it's not they're not probably bad with it, but they're like obviously they're not a god. They're not gonna land every single shot, and we give the player choices where they could shoot something they probably shouldn't, or something silly like that. But yeah. Surday says, yeah, since job boards alpha sort is weird to have these transport jobs that aren't grouped together. I think that just does come down to just, like variety and how they're all written to be different from one another. Because if we had every passenger job just say transport to blank, and then every cargo job say transport cargo to blank, I think it'd be pretty boring. It'd be a lot more like systematic and less so what's the word? It'd make the mission seem very bland and like you're just checking off a job board. And it's kind of like that's how the job board works, but I think having the different names helps and differentiate each one. Or sorry, differentiate, yeah. Yeah. Kind of like how oh, what's an example? There are other things in the game that don't have explicit like rules on how they should be added. I can't really think of an example off the top of my head, but yeah. We're still talking about the gunfight. Yeah, go faster. Warp says, Warp's back. How was dinner? Fine. You eat popcorn again? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got trailed off into the chat, but next question. The current shop system has you constantly scrolling to try and get outfits you want. While the minimize and find tools are useful, it can still be tedious. Is it possible to separate these outfits by tabs instead, making it easier to switch between categories? I guess I'm not sure what's tedious about it, because when you land on a planet, when you're scrolling through the shop, there's not that much. Like, if you go to, like, I guess Earth and Luna or something, or say an alien home planet or something, they do have a lot of outfits, but it's not much to the point where you can't scroll through them or tab minimize. I think the only case where that's an issue is in Omnis, where you can see every outfit in the game, or if you have plugins that add a lot of outfits. And I think at that point, that's not really a vanilla thing to consider changing, and it's more just maybe plugins should have less, or their outfits spread out or something like that. So I think like a majority of the time inland in the sky, you don't have to scroll much more than like, I don't know, 3 times. And if you minimize every tab, like even a couple of tabs, that's already going to be the whole screen. So I think it's mainly like a plugin thing there. As like if I go into the game myself here, I don't know if it's going to show because I'm on a different tab for Campfire chats, but I'm going to go over to what's a planet with a lot of outfits? Galaxy map when searching outfits without remembering the name for Dream. I don't know. I don't know if like we can do tabs there, because how would you even sort that? Because things are sorted more like categorically than they are like by name or anything, and it kind of be odd to alphabetize like names over like where the weapons belong, so with each other. I won't love the game, but yeah, I think in majority of cases, just complaining no idea solutions. Oh, yeah, that kind of ends up like later on once you've seen all the alien factions. There's quite a lot of outfits. I do think the find system is very useful though, because we only got that like last year, and the game's been out for what, 10 years, something like that. So being able to find things is very, very helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the next question. When will the Abgi get merged into the game? Never. Good game though, thank you. Jimmy shows me a sprite in chat. That looks very nice actually. Any suggestions? I think at this point you should try adding the colors, and then you can look back at it and see if you should still do model edits, because I wouldn't say even putting post-production on a ship, you can still think like of things to change with the model. Don't let the fact that you're just done with the model be like when you don't change anymore. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I'd start coloring it. Can't really show it for people on Twitch, but yeah. Next question, because that last one was a joke. What are your thoughts as developers and style curators on the initial release of the Abgi? That's a very broad question, which we seem to get a lot. What about the release? Like, was it a successful release? Was it too early? Should it have been longer? Or oh, Roadrunner's here now. Hello, Road. Another dev. She thinks they're cool. Warpcore says the Abgi are quite hot. To each their own, I suppose. I think it was a pretty good. I think it was a lot more successful than other alien species because so much content came with it. It has a really good introduction to it that wraps up pretty quick. Not nice. I was gonna say quickly, but nicely. And there's still reason to go back into the area and continue doing missions for them. And you can get their content too. You can get their weapons and stuff. Some of them. Araki says neat, though I think they're too speedy in general. I did see a couple of comments and some posts saying that compared to the rest of the game, their fights are a lot more sporadic and kind of hard to keep track of. What I will say is the main thing with the Abgi is they have, I guess, what you consider the best engines in the game, but they do guzzle fuel, so they're not. You can't just use them forever. That'd be a good question for Doom. Doom, how do you feel about how fast the Abgi are, and should that be something we take a look at again, or? Azure says their engines let you reach high speeds, but accelerations are pretty mid. Yeah, they do have some funky stuff going on with mass and drag. They are sure fast, yeah. But overall, on the question of the Abgi release, I think it was a good release. I think it went well. I definitely agree that it should have happened earlier on. I think we could have looked into this a lot sooner than we did. But things just played out the way they did, and now they're in the game. Okay, next question. Oh, real quick, Doom says the ships aren't out of line if you compare them to other ships with the same engines equipped. It's just that the engines make max speed higher. Yeah, so in the case with the Abgi, when the Abgi are using their engines, they are very fast because of the way their ships are built, and there's some funky things going on with mass. Excuse me. When you put their engines on non-Abgi ships, it's a lot more easier to kind of work with because of the way it's the other way around. As yours says. In general, though, Abgi ships are heavier than usual, but engines have drag reduction on them. Yeah. The main idea is that they're not like you don't take an Abgi engine off an Abgi ship and you put it on another ship and it's suddenly crazy fast, because there's some downsides to it as well. So yeah, Abgi ships are happier. But yeah. Next question is, when are we getting an actual campaign for the Aggie instead of yet another unresolved introduction? That's kind of up to Azure and how quickly they can work the content. And I think at that point, this is kind of more my own opinion, but I think that's kind of like a negative approach to the situation. We shouldn't be looking at, oh, something was added to the game and it's unresolved. And I think we should look at it more as, oh, something new is added to the game and there could be so much more added to it. But I do also get that some people would like there to be more completed content in the game. Warpcore is a lot more strict on this. He says it's been 5 minutes since they were added. Calm down. But yeah, I think being that the game's in kind of a sort of beta state and that we're continually adding to it and it's not going to be finished like for a little while, it's okay to have new content that's not necessarily like fully complete. And it really does come down to who's writing what, and if not them, whoever else is like PRing or adding to a species or whatnot. So yeah. So, but if you specifically for the Aggie campaign, I know Azure already has progress on it, and the same is kind of to be said for other alien factions. I'm already writing missions for the next Gegno stuff, and I've considered writing them and not PRing them until you can access some Gegno outfits, because I know people are going to want that eventually. So we'll see with that. But yeah, I believe successors. I'm not sure where Derry is right now, but I know they do want to come back and write a lot for it. So yeah. Next question's another joke saying the Abgear aren't very realistic. No, they're as realistic as can be. I don't know what you're talking about. Do the Gegno missions end with the mining jobs? Yes. I kind of left it there because I didn't want to leave it with more. Something happens. Oh, this is interesting, and then you just don't have anything to do. So I left it to there being jobs that you can do for them, and it will be the fact that if you have done some of them already before the next content, you will already be ready to go. Because either way, you're gonna have to do a few of them, kind of like coalition stuff. Roadrunner says Derry's taking a break right now. Yes. Araki says write my thesis instead regarding coalition content. Yeah, Roadrunner says the thing with finishing campaigns is versus species is that we can only merge stuff that's PR'd, and ultimately there's been more PRs on new species and expanding on the campaign. And the kind of idea with that is because I want us to go more inward and focus on the campaign again, getting like project groups together to work on that stuff for like feedback and stuff like that. We do have ideas of where the campaigns should go, but that doesn't mean people can't write for them. So we're kind of going to look at that in the near future and try and get something going for them. My goal, I'm not saying this is a for sure thing because I don't like, we can't make promises. I want to see one of the other campaign parts in the game by the end of the year, whether it's completed or not, something in the game to play. Now, whether or not we'll complete that, I'm not sure, but I very much would like to see that. Next question is kind of relevant. When will the next part of the Remnant campaign be available or playable? That kind of relies on Zichus, because Zichus is the one who writes for the Remnant, and to my knowledge, they haven't been around for a little while. So it really comes down to if they'd like to PR some more things for it, but that doesn't stop other people from suggesting or PRing content to the game either. That said, I wouldn't just willy-nilly PR more stuff for the Remnant if there's other plans for it, but I'd like to see kind of more thoughts on that side from Zichus' perspective, but we'll see. The next question is, gonna keep Takatia accessible, please do. That's a question for Azure. Azure, are you going to allow people to buy the Takatia and or capture it? Okay, you're not gonna buy it, and okay, it has a 99% self-destruct chance. So I guess the answer is you can get it. It's very hard. That won't change. It won't be like made so you can't get it, period, but it's not going to be purchasable. Yeah, some people have already been capturing it despite it having 90% self-destruct chance. And if you do capture it, this is kind of like with like other unique ships in the game, so like the Gegnoagen or things like that, is if you capture them, you are kind of cutting yourself away from future content. But we're not going to make it so you absolutely can't capture them. The only case with that is the Korath world ships, because that actually breaks your game if you try to do that. But yeah. Admission that lets you get blueprints for it later. I'm not sure the player getting blueprints for such a massive design would allow them to construct it. Yeah. There's some ships in the game that are just meant to not be obtainable. We don't want every ship in the game to be obtainable, and those that are, I mean, they're fair game, but those that are hard to obtain, that's also intended. So, like, ships in the game aren't owed to the player. A lot of them are for the kind of background lore and stuff like that, with, like, say, the Abgi ship, as well as the Gegnoagen, and then that kind of comes into play with some of the older human ships too. They might suck, but they're not there to be good ships to capture. They're there to kind of represent some of the past history of humanity. So, not every ship in the game is meant to be capturable and good for something. So, but on this particular question, what it sounds like is it will be obtainable still, but very hard. Below that, how about the torch or nuke licenses? I think those will be available eventually with Azure, yeah. For the Abgi. It is still a subject of debate whether one of the licenses will be attainable after the next chapter, says Azure. So, TLDR eventually, or soon, or maybe not. It's not a strict no. Get to the next question here. Will the Bunradia be getting a campaign? If not, what is their purpose? Well, like with every species, ultimately yes, they'll have a campaign or an equivalent of one. I think when we say campaign, we mostly mean the main campaign, and an alien species is kind of like a different story because they have like story, and that could be either longer or shorter than the main campaign. We don't know yet, but that's kind of case by case. But yeah, will the Bunradia get a campaign, or will it get story? Eventually. As to when, couldn't say. Yeah, when someone writes a campaign for them. On that topic, when we were saying that anyone can kind of PR to the game or contribute or suggest things, the Bunradia PR actually has quite a lot of like foresight as to what Bunradia content would be like. So if you're interested in seeing what that might be like, go ahead and check our merged PRs, look over at the Bunradia PR and see what that's all about. Next question is Zaplo when? That one's kind of been around for a while. I think that's another case where it's when the creator would like to continue working on them. It has been a while, and there are some other PRs for the Zaplo that will need to be looked at. I know there's some PRs based on like the core changes for the map, and we're still kind of working that out. So, as for when, can't say. Roadrunner here says it's worth mentioning that Derpy, the creator of the Bunradia, who's been one of the devs for the longest time, has been cutting back on the amount of time he spends on the game and will probably not be able to finish the campaign. He said if others are willing to take up the Bunradia, they're free to do so. Yeah, that's kind of one of the cases where he might work on them and he might not, but if you're interested in doing so, You can take a look at the PR, mainly see where the Benrodia were like written about. But yeah. Kind of the same thing for the NKPs, I suppose. But yeah. Almost out of questions here. Next question is there work going on in filling out human space? Some planets along the dirt belt are deep and not unique, more just a filler. Such as New Holland. Is this like regarding existing planets? Yes. Yeah, because I think it's a point. I ask because I don't think we need new planets in human space. There was like thoughts like a station or something, but stations and whatnot. But could we add more to those existing planets? Yeah, we could. Give them a little bit lore and stuff like that. A little bit more lore, but it really depends on what you want to add to them. For example, adding a little bit of like background lore would be a good idea, but adding like a whole new, like, I don't know, government system in human space or something like that, probably not. Or like, you know, specific to a planet. Yeah. Ko has to go. Goodbye, Ko. So it really depends on if we want to expand upon that or if anyone PR is something that could work on it. Next question is, who is writing the Republic story? And I was talking earlier about that, the Republic story, and working on that sooner. Warp answers it here. Warp says, as far as I know, no one at the moment. Seen various people write small parts of it, but they don't appear to have gotten far. Warp is one of those people who would like to continue it, but there are also many other things that he'd like to do. But yeah. It's kind of like when we get to it things, but it's definitely something I'd like to get to sooner than later. And the next question is, what options have been considered for alternative travel options? Currently we have hyperdrives, jump drives, and wormholes, and reusing the latter two in exploration of new species seems to be getting old. I think in that case it's kind of more a limitation of the game itself. We have, yeah, hyperdrives, jump drives, wormholes, and such. I do agree that wormholes do get a little old, and we don't want to like overuse them a lot. But coming out with like a brand new way of transportation is kind of difficult with how the game's mechanics work. You could say hypergates or something like that. I know that's like a consideration, but that's essentially wormholes, so. Hypergates for Quark Ringworlds. Yeah, Quark Ringworlds, Quark Ringworlds are eventually going to be a sort of hypergate system. Whether you can access that or not, that's a different story, but spoiler, says Raki, who has publicly stated that that's what the Quark Ringworlds are. But as for like brand new travel, it's kind of hard to come up with something. Especially like a space environment, like besides like jumping through hyperspace and doing wormhole travel, like there's not really, I can't come up with something off the top of my head right now. Like flying straight over to another system is kind of out of bounds too, but that's kind of the same thing as what you are doing. Azure says, I have a PR that would randomly jump you upon accumulating a certain amount of a new damage type. I'd say that still fall under like jump drive travel, so And I think there's an argument to be had that should we add new travel ways to the game, because we do try and keep things a little bit more simplistic, and I think having like more and more different ways to get around the game could get a little confusing. So the variety, a lot of the variety in the game comes from the stories, not necessarily the gameplay itself. But that's not to say the gameplay doesn't do it too. But as for mechanics, I think it's kind of hard to come up with something further than those, just by the way the game works. The next question is a really poorly written joke, and I don't know if I want to say it out loud or not. When will the Tua be added? We need more human interceptors. When the Wanna is in the game, how about that? Or I ruined your joke. Maybe the Unfettered should be using it at the back of their ships. Zipper says how many cans can a toucan can? 2 cans. 2 toucans. 2 toucans can 2 cans. I don't know. Something. And then there's one more question on the sheet, and then we can turn back to chat here and answer some of the last, or kind of talk to you guys live again. It's been about an hour. Usually these go for an hour, hour and a half. It's 2 if there's more of the devs here with us talking, but hour and a half is about usually as long as these go. What are your thoughts on jump drive range limits in Abgi space? It seems unfair to be trapping the player, especially when they can accidentally get trapped so easily. A couple, just for like to preface this, there are some systems already in the game that jump drive limit, and that's to make sure that you can't jump certain ways. Otherwise, it would not make sense lore-wise or break gameplay progression and stuff like that. As for Abgi space and trapping the player, I don't know. What do you guys all think about that? Let me ask chat and then the other developers. I think it kind of falls into the whole, it's another unique way to play the game, and it breaks up regular gameplay where you're not just going from A to B and you can just leave whenever. It has you actively engage in the area until you can get out. And from a certain point after the main campaign, I think whatever you choose to do, wherever you go, you jump outside of human space, that's your choice to move out. You're kind of acknowledging that there could be nightmares, or there could be hostile aliens, or there could be spaces that don't like you. Azure says we shouldn't use jump range unless there's a good lore reason for it. Yeah, and I think that's what most jump range limitations are in the game right now. Rocky says video game scenario where a player must reflect on their options and not just AFK autopilot. Billions riot. Yeah, I think I don't know. I wouldn't call it unfair, because you're jumping outside of known space, and jumping into the beyond of unknowns is like you can't predict that, and whatever happens out there it's not really a matter of fair or not. It's like you're going into unknown territories, so whatever happens happens. And if the unfair thing is because you're not allowed to go back to human space because you have to do their content, I guess that's the question for Azure. Do you have ways to get back to human space without having to do Abgi content? Because can't you go over to the big Minotaur and jump back anyways? Yeah. And then, yeah, Warp says you could just reload your save anyways. Yeah, that's also true. So, I'm not sure if there's enough difficulty with being trapped there. Like, there's a lot of ways you can undo it to warrant not having that in the first place. Because I think the value it brings as new content with a new twist to things outweighs it being a trap for a momentary playthrough. You can go through successor route as well, yeah. Yeah, you can always get out regardless. You just kind of have to put effort into it. So I guess this kind of questions. Some people do play the game and they're kind of automated. They just like to do trading and they don't do the story, which is completely fine. Some people like space trucking. Some people only like blowing things up, and some people like the story. And while the story is what the game is mainly based around, you can do those other options. And at an extent, by the time you find that out there and you can undo it, then you just know not to go there again. And it's kind of like a retroactive, I guess, thing to look at, because in essence you're not forced to go over there. It's something that you choose to go out and beyond. So Azure says they're considering removing the trap system because intro is immediately handled to you, which tells you that there's something beyond Tangled Shore without you really needing to explore it. I think that's a good point. Sorry, the Aggie are killing me. I think that's a good point if you do want to make it not trapped anymore, so it gives you reason to continue going further. Because at that point, you're not trapped, and in order to go further, you still have to actively engage with the shroud. So that might be a good idea. I think it's a good reason against, or for the argument. When you I see someone Zipper redeemed the rocket sound effect on my stream, but I didn't hear it. I must have been not paying attention. Yeah. Well, that was the last question in the submissions, so about now is when we turn to chat and kind of talk to you guys a little longer and answer any other like small questions or quick ones, and then we'll be on our way. Stream over? No, that's not your stream. If you were streaming this, then you could end it right now if you wanted. Stream? That's an Aggie system? Yes. Someone started a poll. I don't know you could do that. I don't know if you should be able to do that. No, it's gonna spam that. One answer, yes. Well, you know what? I can delete that message too, so I have another answer for it, but I'm not gonna. Xstar says, will music be added to the game, or do you plan on keeping it silent? Eventually, yes. We want to add music to the game. It's kind of been around. It's more how we would do it. We do have some people who are working on music for the game, and anyone else could, though at some point it should be kind of more uniform and like consistent with other music. So there's a Discord channel, or sorry, there's a Discord thread under content creating for music creation. You can go over there and kind of talk things in that. That's not how I phrase. But yeah, we do want to add music to the game eventually. I will caveat that I want to keep the Umble Reach silent. I don't want music over there. I want that to be eerie. I don't want there to be music. That's supposed to scare you, and for reasons to come. Weird or wind noises, maybe. Disable polls in this channel. I'm gonna say yes. But yeah, there are plans to add music eventually. For the longest time we haven't, because coming up with music is one thing, and then having a more expansive music system is another, and there's a lot of code that goes into that, so you know. I guess he spelled poll differently. Yeah. Are the sound effects not working? I'm not hearing the nukes.
Yeah, I don't think the sound effects are working properly on your stream. That's a shame.
Yeah. You guys are trying to make me deaf. Hold on, where is alerts? Oh, I know why. It's because the panel I'm on right now doesn't have an alert link to it, so don't do that. I don't know if I can refund points, maybe. Oh yeah, I can. I don't like how Twitch does this. Okay. There we go. Plays a Korg start when? Probably not. Excuse me. Am I still talking? No, I was reading through chat, sorry. Boo. Doom says, as I understand it, the intent is that all vanilla starts will have you playing as a human. Yeah. It's going to be kind of hard to work around any starts that aren't human because the game is based around you being a human. So if we ever changed that, we'd have to change the whole game. And at that point, that's more like a plugin thing. But having different human starts is definitely on the table. So like where you end up being. Right now there's a high start, which is like the new example of a start. Which you're still a human, and there's humans in high space, so it can work. But starting as a Korg, I know it's a joke, but or like a Korg or Coalition or a Remnant even, because Remnants aren't humans. It's kind of a different story. But I don't know. Remnant could work, but I'd have to see how it would be done. It had to account for quite a lot of things, so I'm not sure. Abgi human start, you could be one of the 4 humans out there. I don't know. Dream says, any chance of an incredibly overpowered start after the players explored almost more content available? It doesn't matter if human. Define incredibly overpowered.
I think they just mean the all content start.
Oh, okay. Oh, just like so the available is like a sandbox. Yeah, at that point just use Omnis or something. And hello, Tybe.
Hi.
You have the cat picture the same as oh, they changed it. The Draculator 3000 had that picture. Yours has a hat on it though. They changed the cat.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this update, or if you've checked the questions, anything's there? Or?
Honestly, I just arrived and I have no idea what you already talked about.
Okay, we talked about deleting all code. How do you feel about that?
It would certainly simplify things.
Great idea. Delete the GitHub repository, yeah.
I don't know if there was any talk about the audio features.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what I talk about the most.
I did bring them up a little bit. I said we have that new panel now. I guess the question I could ask now is, how do you all feel about the pausing of audio as well as the sped up audio? Because there's been some kind of back and forth feedback on that. I think the main bit with paused audio is it shouldn't pause landing sounds, because it might be a little jarring if a conversation happens, and if you go to the outfitter and then back to the spaceport, it's going to be like forever, like pause on pause on pause pause. That seems
I
to be
think
like,
that is something that was fixed before the release.
do you think it was? Oh, does landing audio no longer pause?
I really hope so.
Okay. I thought it did it. I thought it still did, but I could be wrong.
But I have to test it now because that's a bug. If
Yeah,
that still
okay.
happens.
Because if you get like a pop-up from a conversation, Like if you land and you get an immediate mission pop up, it cuts it off, and then once you get out of that, maybe you want to go to the outfitter. Like it's halfway through the landing sound, and then you go to the outfitter and it pauses that, and yeah.
Also, is it only if you get a pop-up, and not if you like go to the spaceport and get a pop-up there?
So you know what? I'm gonna run the game in the background, and this stream can hear if it pauses or not. I don't have a scene set up for the game in this part of my Streamlabs, so.
If I think about it, like, yeah, I think if you get to pop up in the same frame that you land, then the landing sounds should continue playing when you take off, which is gonna be a bit awkward. Like, I could see that happening.
Let's see.
I don't think it should unpause when landed.
That's not pausing. I don't have a pop. Hold on. Let's try here. Someone else join? Hello? I know you guys can't see my game. I don't have a scene for it right now. I'm just trying to get this audio thing tested. While Type's here, while we're chatting about it. Oh. If I did show you the game right now, you'd be seeing some Gagnos brothers. Ooh. Okay, maybe I probably can't get this to do. Oh, maybe not. All right. Okay, no, it doesn't pause it anymore.
That's good to hear. Yeah. I thought I fixed that.
If I'm immediately testing it, I'm not getting a spaceport pop-up, but from getting an immediate mission pop-up, it doesn't pause anymore now. What should you be scared of in the Umble Reach? You should be scared of what's not there. Which is
I think you
anything.
should be scared of navigation, because that's a nightmare.
Yeah. I think the Albatross should be a heavy warship. Is it a medium warship? Or are you just using that as a reference? Someone's posting pictures. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Yeah, no thoughts on the sound effects, anyone? I think people are saying that the sped up sounds are weird, and I mean, I don't really know what to say about that, because that's just how things happen. You take a sound effect and it speeds up with the game speed.
Yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
It did feel weird.
I think it's just pretty much that, because the sounds aren't weird because the sounds are weird. The sounds are weird because they're sped up. They're still the same sound effect. It's just played faster. So, like the hyperdrive sound still goes whoop or whatever. The hyperdrive sound effect does sound a lot different, but it's still the same sound. It's just sped up, and I think it's just a matter of getting used to them.
And did you guys talk about the shrouded mechanics?
Yeah, I think the idea with that is it helps break up gameplay, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. What do you think?
I think it goes a bit too far. in disrupting the gameplay.
Okay.
It breaks the gameplay up so much that it becomes painful in that area.
Now, is it painful because of the jump drive limits, or is it painful because of the shroud mechanic? Because that's what we were talking
It's
about too.
painful
People were saying.
Because
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
it's painful because I have to manually get my ship to do what I want it to do every single time I have to go across that area.
What? What if?
Without any
Because the argument with that is you shouldn't have to be able to automate everything in the game too. Any other devs? Doom's typing. Time you should remove the IP. I think it works as is, but I personally wouldn't be against it having it adjusted a bit. I just don't know how you would do that without making the mechanic not work the way it is desired.
But we could make it so only hyperdrive links get hidden instead of the complete systems. So in that case, it could be like a kind of barrier that until you get the jump drive, it is painful, but with the jump drive, it is not. That wouldn't work in the current case with the law requiring a jump drive, but
Azure says compared to something like the Remnant systems and the Ember Waste, it's rather annoying to get to for in the outer limits and successor space. Yeah, I think it comes down to if it's a bit too disruptive, how would we go about changing that?
And like, if you think about it, like the lore side, there is no good justification. Because sure, maybe it disrupts your computer, but you could just take a piece of paper and write down where the system is, and then you would know that it's there. Like,
I think I saw Azure comment against that, saying it's not a matter of you knowing it's there and your map knowing it's there. It's a matter of the environment itself is inhibiting your map system to work properly. If I'm correct, I don't know, Azure, if you want to comment on that, but
in that case, I would actually prefer it if the systems weren't shrouded. It was that maybe you had to travel between them by wormholes that were hidden, unless you got very close.
Yeah.
So we would use the hidden object mechanic for that, because like that just works better with that
the hidden system, you mean?
And
or Azure says one alternative we thought of was an unstable wormhole connecting the Tangle Shroud to the Ember Waste, so if you wanted to go from the outer limits to Twilight, it'd be faster through the Shroud, but leaving to get to the wider galaxy would be faster with the wormhole.
Yeah, like I would at least want to have some way to go there without having to manually find the next system every time and have to remember that route. I know I heard it was simplified, but it's always still a pain to navigate those shrouded systems.
Well, that's why I brought up the jump drive thing, because what if they're still shrouded, but there's no like you don't have to go a specific way, but you can still jump through. Which I get at that point is more of like an argument between automated and having to manually do it.
Yeah, but you still can't plot a course through it because you don't see all of the planets there or all of the system. Like, I'm fine with the manual pass being faster. Like, if there is a cost to that automation, I'm fine with that, but I think in this mechanic, I'm actually fine with having everything be automated. Yeah, we don't need manual navigation.
Zanano says just do a bunch of spice from Dune and psychic your way through. I don't know if you know, but the Gegno intro encounter is kind of a reference to Dune. That's related or anything. There's no like psychic stuff going on there, or is there? But yeah. You think shrouded should be a game role? Says Azure.
I would rather lean toward what Pharaoh suggested, that would be like the lore way of unlocking it, when you can get some outfit that would make you immune to that effect,
Outfit
at
attribute
least partially.
to ignore the shrouded effect so I can see the big picture. I think that'd be a good
Yeah,
idea
like-
too, because it would retain what the shroud does right now without changing it whatsoever, but then in future encounters there you wouldn't have to worry about it as much. So like maybe the Abgi gave some sort of map or something to you that revealed everything. How do you feel about that, Azure? They're not going to be able to map it. Okay, the Abgi wouldn't map it. It's beyond the predecessor, it's well beyond the Abgi. Okay. Well, we can always think about this over
Like,
the
it wasn't
update.
beyond the predecessors, actually,
Sorry?
from what I recall. From what I recall, the predecessors never had an issue with mapping. They just couldn't fix the issue, so they had to leave. And then they had to leave most of their technology behind.
Yeah.
So the successors might not be able to map it.
Oh, that might be an idea. Maybe the successors can do it. Sixpence is a very
Maybe you
important
can get
question.
some predecessor technology that lets you map it over the course of the campaign.
That could also be an alternative. But I think there's enough to consider at least. I don't want to like sit here all day and be like, oh, how do we fix shrouded if it needs to be fixed or it should be fixed. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can consider for it. Sixpence says, "What's the most or asks what's the most widely consumed drug in human space?" And everyone's saying caffeine. Sugar is not a drug to you. Who knows? Pizza. Yeah.
Pizza aliens.
I don't know about pizza aliens. The pizza is aggressive. Sugar is not a drug. Yeah. It's addictive though. I guess that matters. Yeah. We're coming up on hour and a half, so I'd say in the next 7 minutes if you have any final questions or thoughts. And like I said, we don't get to all of them, so if I didn't see yours, I'm sorry. I'm not actively trying to ignore feedback. If I miss something, it's because chat's moving too fast and I can't read it, or it didn't get submitted into the submission sheet. So next 7 minutes, you guys any quick questions or anything like that? Will there ever be a bigger plume? No, that is the max we're doing. We're not doing that again. It is very seizure inducing. No, it's very bright. I think that's a perfect case for the upscaling sprites, is because that exists. Weapons based on that. I don't want to be a beam anymore. That'd be a flame, like a not a flamethrower even, but like a torch in itself. Particle shotgun. Okay, I did say, I was saying in gun chat earlier, I do want the gun to have some sort of like wider blaster go weapon, and I want them to have like a cannon shotgun. I think that'd be cool. Kind of like the successor's weapon. I'm a little like, oh come on man, they got to add this first shotgun and the weapon in the game before I did, but yeah, they have like a kind of shotgun. It's pretty cool. It slows ships. Jimmy asks, what are your thoughts on, this is the end of what we have so far, dialogue after the discussion earlier. I kind of said my piece, but I think it's worth talking about and considering. For those who don't know, just kind of having like a comment at the end of every current storyline saying this is it so far. I think it's odd. I think it's weird to break the fourth wall and be like, hey, you're done with this content, now you gotta wait. Because the game itself is not complete, and I think most people know that by playing it. And basically my point was that there's no specific mission that says, alright, I'm going to meet you in the spaceport next hour and then there's no more content. It's kind of more, we'll meet you when we need you, and then it's open-ended and you can do jobs and stuff. So I don't think don't think looking at it as it's incomplete and people should know it is the right perspective. I think people should look at it as this is what's in the game, and if there's more to come, then that's cool or something like that. But Rocky says I'll add in a scene at the end of each intro. It's just a video of me narrating the entire intro up until the point and saying Truman show goodbye message. What do you guys think, other devs? Road, Doom. I don't know if Warp's still here. Yeah, Warp's not here. Tybe.
I don't think we support videos.
No, not what Rocky said. No, I meant like having a comment at the end of every current story saying it's the end of it so far.
Yeah, that's always a tough one, honestly. And
Yeah.
I don't really have a.
Road says I wouldn't want that to be explicit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it should be like a fourth wall break. And the way they are right now, saying that we'll meet you again someday, I think is knowledge enough to say that there could be more, but like you shouldn't expect there to be more until it happens. Actually.
Yeah. Like I think the free world doesn't have this, but it's like a nice rounded ending.
The only example. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Or were you finished? Okay.
Yeah.
The only example of a fourth wall break is in 1 or 2 cases in the free worlds that's explaining to you what might be the best for the gameplay. One saying this is how you do fleet battles, and the other one saying take care of these ships because you won't get new ones. But that's more like explaining the gameplay. It's not saying if there's more or less gameplay. So I think it's kind of like an exception because it's like the early part of the game. But when it comes to like alien factions and stuff like that, I think having it just be like we'll need you when you need you is more than enough. But
yeah, and I agree with Doom that the fleet combat isn't outside of the universe.
If for some reason we added it into the game, which I don't think we'd ever do, if we added a mission series that like cut off abruptly, then I would say yes, we would say there's no more content for now. But to my knowledge, everything ends off with kind of like a downplay, like there was a climax before something, and then it just kind of peters out. Let's scroll up see if there's any other questions. Add collisions. That probably won't happen. That'd be a disaster. Be a balance problem too. Tomic's advice isn't a fourth wall break. Yeah, that one isn't. But I think there used to be advice that was like in parentheses and stuff. Remnant Keystone fourth wall break. I guess that exists. But the idea is we want to avoid that. You know, not make it like a consistent thing in the game. The Nararat, or however you say it, yeah, that's also in Limbo. It's supposed to come in Remnant content. There were plans for it. Gmod prop collectors telling things are overlapping. Just make a mod, give every single ship. If you want collisions, it won't work like perfectly. But give every single ship like a turret in the middle of the ship, and it makes a sound effect and does damage. I don't know. I guess that would only work when something's hostile. Rocky hereby declares Quarter is considered the center of the Milky Way. Okay, heliocentristic. Or no. What is it? The other one? It's the other one, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, there is core stuff that we'd like to look at on the main repo. I would like to look at that soon too. It all just depends on what we decide to focus on, and like I was saying earlier, I do like to focus on existing content more, especially what with the main campaign. So, not to say other things can't be like that, but yeah. My dog is on my keyboard. Did you dog type that? If so, they're a very good dog. The navigators. All right, it's an hour and a half. Any last minute questions? Shoot now, and then I'm gonna end the stream. Sagittarius. Yeah, I'm gonna rename the black hole to Sagittarius instead of Sag. When? Soon then. Space F-14. How soon is now? Now is as soon as when was when then was there. Why do you smell funny? I just took a shower. How do you know? Who are you asking? That's the more important question. Why is it called an oven if? Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Okay, now we're getting too philosophical here. This isn't about on the scout anymore. Oh, it's an Office. I gotta actually watch Office. I've seen so many bits from it. What's the meaning of life? 42. That's easy. Soup. That's the answer. Yeah. Alright, well, thank you all for showing up, giving us some questions to answer, chatting with us. Thank you everyone who's watching, both on Twitch and chilling in the Discord. There will be a VOD up on YouTube after. I'll put a link to that in the Campfire chat room eventually. And for those of you who are lurking, thank you for watching as well. Our next developer Campfire chat will be on the... looks like the 1st again of next month. So, if you want to be here for that. Next update you can look forward to being within a couple of weeks. We usually do 3 to 4 weeks for our stable releases to fix on bugs, focus on bugs for the previous major release, and then after that we'll go into another major cycle, and that'll take another 3 to 4 months. Those are usually our more packed releases. So the Avgear bugs, remove them. The Avgear aren't the only bugs in the game though, so we'd have to remove more than them. Arcana bugs. That's up to debate. You don't know. They could also just be an animal that you don't know exists as a human. You're just labeling it as a bug. They're bioships, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for coming. We'll see you guys next time. Adios. And everyone's gonna hear the sounds on the stream leaving. Okay. Yep. Goodbye, stream.